It's a train wreck happening in slow motion. So the consequences are severe, but it happens so slowly that people individually and collectively can easily not notice it, and thus not perceive the gravity of it.
I have been involved with the Untitled Chapter since my first year here at UCLA.
Experiences with climate change, I guess some of the first-hand experiences have happened like while I've been on campus. I mean, recently with all the fires, specifically the Getty fire, like it's pretty scary having things happen that close to campus, and climate change obviously is going to expand the natural disasters that we have and make them worse.
Hi, I'm Ted Parson. I'm a professor here at UCLA in the law school, where I also co-direct the Emmett Institute on Climate Change and the Environment. I've been working on climate change, energy policy, and environmental policy and related issues since around the time I finished my undergraduate degree in the 1970s.
I wish people knew more about the scale of the impact of climate change.
If you asked me the question in 1990, I would have said an aggressive program of moving to non-carbon-based energy sources to transform the world's energy economy toward being climate safe, ultimately zero emissions. That's still necessary, but that's no longer sufficient.
Yes, there are a lot of things that you can do, and yes, it's important that every individual on the planet is doing their part, but the most important thing is to understand that most of the pollution that's happening in the global realm is done by these huge corporations, and they are contributing the most to the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Personal purity by changing your own behavior. People have different views on how effective that is and how correlated it is with more effective actions. I'm sort of at the end of thinking it's relatively ineffective, because if all the people who care change their life in order to reduce their own carbon footprint, that only takes care of the people who care.
29% of the world's population could face risk that's considered not tolerable in the areas of like water, food, and energy availability by 2050 if the planet warms by another degree Celsius, which would be 2 degrees Celsius from like pre-industrial revolution levels.
If we don't geoengineer, it is virtually certain that we will fail to meet the Paris limit of 1.5 degrees C, and it's almost certain that we'll fail to meet the Paris limit of 2.0 C. Geoengineering divides into two different things that people are busy fighting over whether they should be called by the same name or different names. One is removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere after it's already there, and the other is actively intervening to change the radiation balance of the Earth, between the Earth and space or the Earth and Sun. What I wish people knew more about carbon dioxide removal is that it really does work, but it's slow. And so even a massive scale deployment of carbon dioxide removal is basically about changing how bad things are in a century. It doesn't do anything in 10 or 20 years. What I mostly wish people knew about solar geoengineering, about the things that really scare people when they first hear about them, like spraying reflective mist in the stratosphere to make the sky a little brighter and reflect, 0.5% of the incoming solar energy, is that, one, it really looks like these things could work. And work means temporarily reduce the divergences from prior climate that are being driven by greenhouse gases, and do it in a way that's pretty uniform worldwide.
I would stress that people should lobby their politicians and vote and make sure that they can get people in office that will hold these companies to account and make sure that they are doing things that will positively affect our planet.
One of the biggest threats to our well-being is big portions of the world not being able to produce food anymore because of warmer temperatures, and specifically countries that are dependent on subsistence farming, that could have a huge impact on their way of life.
I definitely think social movements have been really important to the fight. I think before we had all the climate strikes and all the youth going on protests and many of the activism and awareness campaigns, a lot of people didn't really know how serious this was. There had obviously been scientists releasing reports, but that was mainly staying within the scientific community, I think.
Effective mobilization for pragmatic political action that actually targets climate change and doesn't pile every progressive cause onto the same campaign. Action that effectively reflects the gravity and the priority of avoiding climate change for human welfare and justice and development and the natural world. That's what students can do.
Although people know it and they throw around the term climate change, I definitely think we can always learn more, and the more we learn, like the more powerful we are to stop it and make real change.
There isn't a single tipping point for climate change. Or if there is, nobody knows where it is or what it is. It's more like a curved surface of things getting worse and worse the further we continue down the bad path we're on. But no matter how far we're stuck out there, it's still absolutely worth massive efforts to stop going further.